Hey, true believers. Chris Mack coming at you today with Justice League America, issue 69. This is part 2 in the death of Superman. And this book brings back so much nostalgia. I remember when I bought my collected trade, it showed all the covers of every issue leading up to the death of Superman. And all of them was Doomsday Superman fighting. Both of them being more worn down and getting blood riddled and all that good stuff. But I remember this particular issue just stood out to me because there just wasn't a whole lot going on like in the other covers, which made it iconic to me. Because when you look at this, just that negative red space in the background, and then all the Justice Leaguers struggling, try as they may, not being able to defeat Doomsday. And there's a little tidbit that kind of surprised me about this issue we'll talk about here in a second, but it's just nice to finally have every single issue instead of just, as I've said, having the death issue and the collected trade. So let's dive into Down for the Count. This is Dan Jurgens doing the story and art, Rick Burkett doing the finished art, which I finally learned that when they say finished art, that means the inks. So Dan Jurgens doing both the story and the art. I never knew he was a penciler. So, better late than never, I guess, in terms of knowledge. And that's what I was talking about on the cover, is he did the cover art as well. So that's pretty freaking cool. Now, Willie Schubert did the letters. There's everyone else that worked on the book. And of course, Superman was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. The print date on this was December 1992. Now, we've gone over Superman the Man of Steel, I believe was issue 18, which is part 1. At the end of it, Doomsday walks out onto a highway and destroys a semi. So here, the League is having to clean up the incident that just happened. And again, just the artwork. I remember that every comic, even if I didn't like a book back in the day, it was always this level of great artwork. I mean, look at this. This little mini splash page. We got Guy Gardner. We have Bloodwind, Blue Beetle, Ice, Fire. What's his name? Gold. Booster Gold. That guy. And just seeing everybody work together with all these different personalities. Just absolutely amazing. And then, yes, at one point in history, I can't remember why Guy Gardner was kicked out of the Green Lantern Corps, but he somehow, and again, helped me in history-wise, because I've been wanting to read this, how once he was dismissed from the Corps, how did he gank Sinestro's ring? Because that's what he's rocking here, is the yellow ring of fear. And of course, this was before Parallax, and all that good stuff. This was even predates Emerald Twilight, and I think Emerald Dawn. Maybe Emerald Dawn 1, but not 2. I don't know. Anyway, it's just really cool to see all of them working, because at the time when I was really starting to get in the comics, this was the Justice League that I knew. So I like here Ted, I always forget his name, Ted Corgan. That doesn't sound right. I think I have Smashing Pumpkins on the head, but Ted Cord. Yes. So they're hearing about Doomsday making another trail of destruction, and he goes, and Bloodwind here goes, "We must find the beast." I agree, Bloodwind. Everybody into the bug, and we'll be on our way. And I like how Blue Beetle, he's just a very smart guy. And when he's in charge, he's very much to the point. And if I'm not mistaken, Blue Beetle came from the Charleston comics before DC bought them out. And when Alan Moore wanted to do The Watchmen, I think Blue Beetle eventually became Night Owl, and the Question became Rorschach. I think that's kind of how it went down. So you can very much see the similarities between Ted Cord and, I can't remember what's his name. Night Owl's real name. Anyway, awesomeness all around. And what I like particularly about this issue is, first, how Dan Jurgens just kind of segues from everyone get ready to go fight Doomsday, and Ice here goes, "Gosh, it's too bad we have this emergency. I really wanted to see today's episode of the Cat Grant Show," which is how we segue into the Cat Grant Show. Just a cool little way, felt seamless, kind of like how you would in a movie. And she has Superman on the show today. And why is that important? We'll get into it in just a minute. Now, it's neat, again, is everyone's a little reluctant to be around Blood One. They've noticed that he's a little bit different. And I like how Ted, always being the scientist and kind of has that analytical mind, he says something along the lines of, Blood One, you've expressed telepathic abilities before, or psychic powers before. Any chance you can scan ahead and tap into this guy's mind? And before he can really do it himself, Maxima's like, I will too. And then Ice, she's like, I guess 2 psychic minds are better than 1. Which, of course, in terms of teamwork, that's awesome. But again, going back to Ted Kord's analytical mind, he goes, nuts. I wanted Blood One to go in alone, so I'd have a chance to gauge his powers. It's the only way I can get info on the guy. The way he shields his abilities, he'll probably let Maxima make the first contact. Just a really cool way to start. Again, this Justice League book is a tie-in to the Death of Superman, which after this issue, they'd probably wait until this kind of would blow over a little bit and then continue on. But we'll get into that here in a second. Now, again, Superman's on the Cat Grant show. Now listen to, and this is what I was talking about when I say we'll get into it in a minute, is I like how Jurgens takes his time in terms of the dialogue to show why Superman is so beloved. She goes, I can't thank you enough for joining us here, Superman. Interviews are a true rarity. He goes, I've always felt that if Americans are to trust us, they have to know us, Ms. Grant. And without your trust, we're not effective. So he's just very cool, very nonchalant. Not going out there showboating, kind of like how, what's his name? From The Boys. The blonde guy that's supposed to be like the faux Superman. Of course, I start recording and my brain is just like, nope, I'm going to go on a little adventure and can't remember shit. But that guy, how, they very much made him a dick. Superman is very much an antithesis of that. She goes, agreed. Some of your colleagues like Booster Gold, Elongated Man, and Wonder Woman, they've led very public lives, but we don't know much about you. As the leaders of the JLA, perhaps you can give us the inside story on you and your pals. And he goes, let me correct you on that point, Ms. Grant. He doesn't get defensive. He doesn't say, now wait a minute. He just says, let me correct you on that point. He says, it's unfair to the others to paint me as the leader of the Justice League. We're a group of people who've gotten together to do a job only we can do. Everybody in the group has a say on issues and a vote as well. So even though Superman can, destroy this Earth if he so wanted to, it just shows the type of person that Clark Kent, Kal-El, really is and how big of a heart he has, which is how, in terms of good storytelling, to show why we love Superman and why as we go into Doomsday and as how everything starts to tick down, why it hurts so much and how you can tell just something is not right as you're reading this story. And again, Doomsday tears into the Bug and everyone's just like, oh God, kiss your britches, we going down. Now, jumping along, hold on. These pages are sticking. Get your mind out of the gutter. Kat gets a little defensive to it, even though Superman's trying to be respectful. She goes, don't be so modest, Superman. The whole city knows you and Guy Gardner exchanged blows a few weeks ago. Care to comment on the conflict between you two? Again, very cool, collected customer. Mr. Gardner and I are colleagues, though it's true our relationship is somewhat icy. We do manage to get the job done. And then again, it just kind of shows the type of person Guy is. It goes, feels good to get you in my hands again, babe. What super doof got that I don't? And I just like how Ice is just deadpan class. Just great ways of segueing and making the story feel, organic. Like nothing feels abrupt. And again, they're using the interview as kind of the framing device of this book. We start getting questions from the audience and listen to some of the ways that Superman's able to, answer some of these tougher questions. But we'll get into that in a minute. Guy Gardner, of course, being the hothead that he is, thinking he could take Doomsday on, he goes, what do you want written on your tombstone? And before anything else, just bam, just Doomsday ripping into him. He goes, that freaking thing's powerful. I never had a chance to fight back. I can't breathe. I can't even think. And this guy, can't believe, in front of a live studio audience. Yeah, I was kind of wondering about fire. Does she score as high on the babometer as it seems? And of course, other people are like, nice question, Spud. And of course, Superman, knowing that that's not the greatest question of all, but respectful, goes, fire's good at her job and a terrific person. Next question. And then we jump into Bloodwind, and he's trying to channel, like, I guess from his powers, he's able to take, like, how's a good way to explain it? Sort of, I guess, like a Dr. Fate or John Constantine is able to draw on the afterlife for his strength. And he goes, this area is rich with the plasma energies of the spirit of the dead. I call on those spirits to grant me the power necessary to defeat this monstrosity. Gods, what manner of creature can sustain such a blow? So there goes Bloodwind. And then this one was probably one of the best questions. She goes, I was wondering, is there anything out there that, really frightens you? I mean, I'd get scared facing all that stuff if I were you. And of course, that being the framing device, we go back into the fight. And look at the way the art team, sort of like in a dramatic stage play, they shadow everything. And he goes, good question, Ms. See, one way or another, fear is always part of the job. I'm afraid of failure, and I'm afraid of hurting innocent people. And to be candid, I've been afraid for myself. I've encountered things powerful enough to kill me. Back into the violence. And that's just great work right there. Great way to focus on our main hero while also showing the threat that's coming for him. Now, one thing that I want to share with y'all on a personal level when I talk about how this comic is kind of, spewing with nostalgia for me, Ted says that he's going to go after, try to save Bloodwind. He goes, weird. Here I am trying to save the most mysterious guy in the league. Bloodwind's hiding something from us. And then we see this wind or tornado or something. He goes, there. But that's not, of course. All this time I wondered who Bloodwind really is. And now I know. I never would have guessed it in a million years. But Bloodwind is really... And then, again, cut. We go back to the same girl asking another question. And he goes, Bloodwind must be... And we don't get any more from this book. We just have Ted saying, someone help me. Now, for the longest time, again, as I've said, when I first started collecting comics, I grew up in a town that didn't have a comic shop, like a steady one, should I say. So a lot of my information was either secondhand, what little bit I was able to pry from comic shop owners, trading cards, and then if we ever went out of town that had a comic shop, I'd try to remember what I could buy, because there wasn't really comic book databases unless you wrote them down in a binder. So, this book came out December of 1992. It is now, at the time of this recording, 2023. So a couple of decades later, it's nice to finally understand that, and again, spoilers if you guys have not read this and you want to read it and be surprised, but Bloodwind, or at least this iteration of Bloodwind, is John Jones in disguise. So it's just nice after almost 2 decades to finally have that question answered. Because I was always like, well, who is he? Who is he? And of course, I could never get issue 70 because, and on, because there was never a steady comic shop. And when I'd go out of town, my folks to where there's comic shops, again, if I didn't write stuff down, I'd forget. So I would just end up buying random shit. Anyway, moving on. Great book. I just love how the Justice League, again, they're beloved by everyone. And they just cannot beat this guy. Like, everything that they would normally do to try to save the day, it's not working. I like how Superman leaves the studio and is able to save Booster, and he goes, I hear you people are having some trouble. Trouble isn't the word, Superman. I'm telling you right now, it's like Doomsday is here. Now, maybe a little on the nose, but just a cool little way to introduce our main antagonist's name. And even here, Jurgens gives it to you on the cover, Doomsday. And it just shows how much of a threat he is if he's able to take down the Justice League. And we haven't even, in 2 issues into the death of Superman, and we have not seen the Man of Steel and this monstrosity duke it out yet. Great way to build things up. And again, as I said in my last review, being able to cohesively get all these writers together so everything feels the same and has that same, theme and mood across all the books. So again, this was something special for me. Wanted to share it with you guys. We'll be continuing with part 3 here soon. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever it is you'd like to pick up your books. And if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little Doomsday bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, I hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.